This is big breaking emergency news. We now have the White House officially issuing a nationwide alert. They're issuing this warning that we could come under a major nationwide attack. We could see our country come to a standstill, see our supply chain brought to a halt, and this is due to potential cyber attacks that could hit our country. That is what the White House is warning of right now. They just issued this warning, and actually Biden just signed an executive order related to this as well. All right, so this is very serious. They are taking this serious. They are restructuring parts of the military to deal with this crisis right now that they are warning is coming very soon. It's starting right now. And look at all the things that we have seen today, all these different outages. All right, we are seeing outage after outage, cyber attack after attack on our country as well. So things are lining up, and we could see a even bigger one hit our country very soon. That's what the White House is warning of right now. And just today, we saw nationwide outages. All right, and the White House is warning that we could see even bigger outages, even bigger attacks on our country that could bring our entire supply chain, our entire economy essentially to a standstill and to a halt. That's what they are warning of, and that's what Biden just signed an executive order for. And we also have these outages. All right, people were reporting nationwide. There were hundreds of thousands of people reporting that they were having outages of services like AT&T and T-Mobile in multiple different states. People were saying this was going on early in the morning, all right? And this is potentially related to a cyber attack, okay? And they were saying that this could be related to potentially a solar flare, but the solar flares that we were seeing from my observation were not strong enough, and we also were not seeing outages of satellite internet as well. If that was the case as well, we would see major outages of satellite, and also the solar flares were not hitting exactly where the outages were as well. We were seeing major outages being reported in the south. This is where I kept seeing Texas. All right, here are a few places that I keep seeing pop up in comments and people reporting that they didn't have cell phone service. All right, Texas, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, Westminster, Maryland, Louisville, Kentucky, New Orleans, Chicago, Atlanta, Virginia, West Melbourne, Florida, and Northwest Arkansas. That is where we were seeing the majority of these outages. A lot of people saying they were hitting in the south. I saw Florida pop up a lot. I saw Texas pop up a lot. And these southern states, I saw Atlanta pop up. I actually saw Chicago pop up a lot too for these outages. And now at the same time, we have the White House signing this executive order warning of major cyber attacks, getting prepared for them on our country. And they're issuing this warning that we need to get ready. All right. We also saw admitted cyber attacks, and in this situation as well, we have the FBI investigating. They are investigating these outages with AT&T. They are working with them, so it seems like something is going on. All right, they wouldn't have the FBI, and also CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, is working with them as well, and are in response to this to see if there's any criminality tied to this, because it's highly unusual for these outages to occur in tandem like this, all at the same time. We also saw admitted cyber attacks on U.S. pharmacies today as well. The past couple of days, we are seeing prescriptions being delayed from a Tennessee-based healthcare provider and pharmacy processor. It says here, cybersecurity breach at United Health subsidiary causes prescription delays for some pharmacies. This is a Tennessee-based company, and it seems like around local pharmacies in Tennessee and around Tennessee are experiencing these delays. They're not able to process their prescription orders. That's what's going on. And even places like Walgreens are being affected as well. They're saying it's mostly local and smaller pharmacies But even Walgreens is saying that a small percentage of their stores are being affected. It says a Walgreens spokesperson said in a statement to CBS News that the pharmaceutical giant was not experiencing significant barriers to filling prescriptions, although, quote, a small percentage of prescriptions may be affected. All right, that's what they're saying. They're trying to minimize this effect. It could be a little bit bigger than what they're saying, but they're at least admitting that a small percentage of prescriptions, even at places like Walgreens, this could be hitting CVS and other major pharmacies, nationwide pharmacies as well, from this cyber attack. All right, it's hitting their payment processing and their prescription processing computer systems. All right, now this brings us to what the White House is warning of and what the White House just signed this emergency executive order over. They are worried that we could see major cyber attacks on our U.S. supply chain and shutting down our supply chain. And Biden just signed this order for the U.S. to be in response to this. Okay? He's saying that, quote, this is a quote from Biden from official White House documents and transcripts. This is posted on White House official documents. It says, I find that the security of the United States is endangered by reason of disturbances in the international relations of the United States that exist as a result of persistent and increasingly sophisticated malicious cyber campaigns against the United States, and that such disturbances continue to endanger such relations. All right, so he's saying that internationally there are these persistent and increasingly sophisticated malicious cyber campaigns attacking the United States. This is what Biden just said Wednesday night, by the way. This executive order was signed last night. I know I was talking about a different executive order yesterday, but he also signed this executive order as well last night too. All right, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in our country that's not being reported on, not being kept up on. All right, and if you haven't heard the story, hit it up for me down there really quick too. It helps to get this story out to people. And you can see here the main thing that they're worried about with this executive order that was just signed is they're worried about cyber attacks hitting our U.S. ports and our U.S. critical infrastructure and shutting it down. And they are worried that specifically Chinese manufactured shipping cranes could be a major risk to our U.S. national security, and China could shut down a massive percentage, up to 80% of our shipping cranes could potentially be remotely shut down through back doors from China. All right, that is what the White House is warning of right now. That's what this executive order was just issued for, and it comes on. And then the next day, Biden signed this last night, Wednesday night. The next morning, we see these major outages. All right, so this could potentially be a response to this executive order that was signed. This could be a response to our country. This could have been a hit, an attack on our country in response to this executive order, because things are lining up. They're getting us prepared for something big, whether it's a false flag, all right, they're planning something and going to blame it on someone else, or it's a real threat, which actually exists. There are countries that have extreme cyber capabilities that do have these backdoors, especially China. They've been probing our country for extensively, at least the past 5 to 10 years. They have backdoors in all of these systems, all right, and they've been activating them and dry running them. And this could have potentially been a dry run on the U.S. communication services. You can see here it says one key issue, according to senior administration officials, is that 80% of ship-to-shore cranes moving trade at U.S. ports are manufactured in China. That's what they are worried about. It says President Joe Biden on Wednesday signed an executive order and created a federal rule aimed at better securing the nation's ports from potential cyber attacks. It says the administration is outlining a set of cybersecurity regulations that port operators must comply with across the country, not unlike standardized safety regulations that seek to prevent injury or damage to people and infrastructure. This is a quote coming from the National Security Advisor at the White House, and Newberger. She said, quote, "We want to ensure that there are similar requirements for cyber, when a cyber attack can cause just as much, if not more, damage than a storm or another physical threat." All right. She also went on to say, quote, "With over 5.4 trillion in economic activity and over 90% of overseas trade moving through our ports, a cyber attack could cause a cascading impact to both our domestic and global supply chains." That's a quote from the Deputy National Security Advisor at the White House. All right. And this is what they are worried about, and this is what they are getting prepared for. They're altering the Coast Guard as well and giving the Coast Guard new cyber capabilities and appointing new positions inside the Coast Guard to deal with this crisis, because they already know they're dealing with it. They're literally already investigating the cranes right now. The Coast Guard has been investigating these cranes and checking them out because they've already been worried that the U.S., all the goods coming into the U.S. are also being tracked and traced. They're also worried about that every single thing coming into the U.S., because these cranes have very sensitive sensors that read all the data of what's in these shipping containers. They scan them, okay? They know what's inside of them, and they know where they're coming from, everything. So even if we have secret military deliveries being sent out or coming into the United States, these things could be compromised. Anything could be compromised that's coming in and out of the United States. They're worried that these sensors on the cranes as well are already being used right now to surveil us, and then in the future they could be used to shut down over 80% of our U.S. port capacity. That's what the White House itself is warning of right now, and they just signed an executive order for. It also says, in the U.S., roughly 80% of the giant cranes used to lift and haul cargo off of ships onto U.S. docks come from China and are controlled remotely, said Admiral John Vann, commander of the U.S. Coast Guard Cyber Command. That leaves them vulnerable to attack, he said. They also said there are over 200 of these cranes, which include sophisticated sensors that could track container information. The Coast Guard has evaluated 92 or of more than the 200 cranes. All right, so they've already evaluated 92 different cranes out of 200 that they are worried about could be compromised already from these sensors that are tracking and tracing the goods that are coming in and out of the United States. All right, so they've already been worried about this. This is already happening, and it's been allowed to happen. They've known this has been going on for years, and they just haven't done anything until it's too late. Okay, till it's too late. And this executive action gives the Coast Guard, which regulates the nation's ports, the ability to respond to cyber attacks. All right, and they're setting up cyber commands in the Coast Guard as well. That's how serious this is. And they're expanding our military to deal with this problem. All right, they're also setting up new coordinations with CISA as well to work with CISA and the DHS to deal with these cyber attacks that are hitting our ports. And this already happened in Australia. Just a few months ago last year, there were major shutdowns of their national ports in Australia. And this was due to a cyber attack, very similar situation, shutting down the cranes in the ports. This also happened in Japan last summer as well. Very similar situation happened where Japan had major shutdowns of their ports. Okay, so this could happen in the U.S., and they know that these back doors are there, and they've allowed them to exist for decades now. And people have been warning of this for decades, that we should be, especially our critical infrastructure, should be manufactured and made in America by Americans and American companies. But we've outsourced all our manufacturing, all our capacity to build things to these foreign countries, specifically China, who could shut down their supply chain coming to us in the event of a World War III event, an outbreak, or they could just shut down our port capacity to even accept anything from any country. All right, this is what's being proposed at the highest levels and they're preparing for. So you need to be getting ready too. So you need to be getting things like a generator, gas tanks, water tanks. These are the things, little solar packs, all right? These are the things that are going to help you survive. Have your car filled up. All right, your car's incredible. You can charge your phone, you can get AC, you can get heat. Your car can save your life, and it has saved my life many times living off-grid the past 3 years in my RV with my family. We've lived off a generator, we lived off water tanks for years, and it's hard. It's rough. It's a rough way to live. It's a hard way to live. It's an extreme shock if you are used to living with your 100% creature comforts at all time. It's a major shock to deal with all the little things. Even just washing your dishes, eating some food, it becomes a major hassle. Taking a shower, all these things were limited, and we were struggling while we were living off-grid like this. All right, it's fun. It was cool. We got to travel around, go to all these awesome spots, but it was rough and it's hard, right? It's a hard way to live, and we do not want the supply chains to go down or the grid to go down. They're very worried about cyber attacks on the electrical grid as well, because these logic controllers that control the flow of electricity to our critical infrastructure remotely, they are all built overseas. All right, the FBI has issued warnings on this, warning after warning, and we've seen these attacks happen, a lot of these dry runs, okay, and we could see more. And you can bet that these major cities are gonna be chaos when it hits the fan. That's why you need to be out of these big cities. You need to be out in the country. You need to be working on growing your own food, growing your own garden, getting your chicks ready. Let me get you guys a chick update really quick here. All right. Here's a chick update. Girls are doing good. They're getting big. Their wing feathers are coming in. Okay, and hit it up down there for me to help get this video out, because this stuff's important. This stuff's critical. This is what we need to be working on, everyone, because the supply chain could go down overnight. This phone outage happened at 4 in the morning. People woke up getting ready to go to work and their phone doesn't work. They have to leave their house with their phone not working, leave their family, leave their kids, and they don't know. They don't know if the phone's coming on. Some people couldn't even check to see what's going on. They don't have Wi-Fi. Their phone's out and they don't know. Is this it? Is this the big one? That's how it's going to be. Even Senator Marco Rubio was warning of that. He was saying that things are going to be 100 times worse than what we just saw today. This is what Marco Rubio tweeted out on social media on X. He said, "I don't know what caused the AT&T outage." He said, "but I do know it will be 100 times worse when China launches a cyber attack on America on the eve of a Taiwan invasion." He said, "and it won't just be cell service hits, it will be your power, your water, and your bank." All right, that's coming from Marco Rubio. That's one of the top senators in the country, top Republican senators. He's on all the foreign committees, on all the intel committees. All right, this guy's has all the national security secrets. He's seen it, and he's saying that this is coming. This is coming. All right. And he's saying it will hit. He said it won't just be cell service. It will hit your power, your water, and your bank. Even your bank is not safe from this. All right. That's why it's critical to have cash, some form of cash, because it could happen. It could happen. We saw a cyber attack on one of the biggest banks in the world at the end of last year, and they were trading. This is a bank in the U.S. It's out of China, but it operates in the U.S. as well. And they were operating, walking back and forth. That's how they were doing transactions. They were walking back and forth to different offices around New York City to make trades and to clear deals and to get signatures, because they couldn't process anything. Their systems were completely down. All right, this can happen to your bank as well. We've seen all these weird banking glitches. Do you remember that a few months ago? I remember because it showed it on my bank for about a month, and it was saying payments are delayed from this certain date. I think it was in November, maybe it was October, but it was like payments delayed from 11/8. Every time you logged into any kind of banking or anything like that, checked your banking, it said payments are delayed, and that was due to a major cyber attack on the automated clearinghouse that clears all the checks and the direct deposits for our country. All right, that was shut down for that day. Those payments were lost for weeks, and people were waiting to get paid on that day. It was their direct deposit from their job, and it was delayed for weeks. People couldn't pay their bills, couldn't pay their rent, couldn't buy food. All right, that happened last year. At the end of last year, I made a whole video on it. This is already happening. We're already being affected in our country, and the White House is warning that the big one can hit. If a big one like this launches, if we see attacks on our ports, we're going to see this other stuff hit too. He's right. They're going to hit the power. They're going to hit the water. They're going to hit the banks at the same time. They're just doing all these dry runs. All right, they're flipping these switches and making sure they still have the access in the background and saying, hey, we got access to this phone network here. We can shut it down. We got access to your pharmacies. We can shut it down. We got access to your supply chain. We can shut it down. We got access to your water. We can shut it down. All right, that's what's happening in our country right now, and it's a major national security risk. Let me put this girl back, all right? That's why we're going so hard in 2024 to grow our own food, to be sustainable. All right, we're getting even more chickens. We're going to get a few more, all right, just to fill in the gaps for these chicks here. We want to get a few more, all right? This is what we're working on in our homestead because it's coming. It's coming. We got water tanks filled up. We're on a well. We have a generator, all right? We're working on solar. We're going to get that going too soon. This is what is going to be needed to survive in this new world that they are creating. All right, in the aftermath of it as well, we could see all of these critical things rationed. Okay, sorry, the internet's out. 40% of the internet's gone. It's going to be rationed now because that's the only way it's going to work. Sorry, 40% of the grid gone. Is 50% of the grid is gone. Capacity is locked out. And all it takes as well is a natural gas pipeline. Do you remember that? The Colonial Pipeline hack. It wasn't a natural gas, it was an oil pipeline going to the southeast of the U.S. All right, this was a few years ago. I remember, all right, I was down in Florida, and there were no gas stations that had gas near me, and I was calling my family hours away because I was going to go visit them and say, hey, did they have gas in there or not? Because I wasn't going to have enough gas to drive down there and get back if they didn't have it, right? Because there were no gas stations near me that had gas. So this can happen. It's already happened. They've already done these dry runs after dry runs. All they have to do is shut down one of these natural gas pipelines going into a major metropolitan area, and that's essentially going to shut off the power, right? Because natural gas is around 40% of the generation capacity for our grid. 30 to 40% depends on where you are in the country. All right, so if they shut off a natural gas pipeline, 30% of the grid's offline now. They're going to be rationing. They're going to be controlling. They've already done this as well, where they control the smart meter. They did this in Denver last year during the summer. They controlled people's smart thermometers in their home and didn't allow them to turn the AC below, it was like 80 degrees or something during this heat wave, to prevent the grid from being strained. All right, so you can bet if there's a major emergency like this, and they are going to put restrictions on it as well. Okay, and do you remember that nationwide test alert that went out last year as well? That sketchy test everyone's phone. All right, I went out in the middle of the woods, so I didn't even get this thing on my phone. I was out where there was no service. Okay, we just wanted to have a nice day away from phone signals, everything, and I didn't want this message to pop up on my phone because it's a security alert as well. You have to click on it. We don't really know what could install something. Who knows? I'm not saying it did, but it could have installed some kind of backdoor into our phones potentially. All right, getting this notification, you have to click on it. Who knows? Who really knows? Not saying it did, but that was a possibility, and this alert went out. They were testing it for a reason because they know things are going to go down. We had over 50 senators issued these sat phones. Okay, they are getting ready for something big, and they know it's coming. So please hit it up for me down there, guys. If you haven't heard this story, if you didn't know that they signed this executive order, please smash that like, smash that subscribe button. All right, I'm keeping you guys updated on these stories that are happening every single day, and it's moving, guys. It's moving. We could see something. This is how it's going to be too. It's going to be slow. All right, we're going to see it happen in slow motion, this collapse. All right, but at the same time, when it's going to be something big like this, it's going to be quick and it's going to be unexpected at the same time. Marco Rubio, he said it's going to be 100 times worse than what we saw this morning. 100 times worse. And people were panicking, people freaking out, their phones aren't working, okay? 100 times worse. And that's probably on the low end, being conservative. Because imagine if you can't access your bank. Imagine if it's all the iPhones. All right, imagine if it's all the Androids are locked out and you can't access anything. Everything's tied to our phone now. All the authentication, all the verification to log into anything, to access any accounts is all done through your phone now. So if that's locked out, it's going to cause a cascading effect and lock us out of multiple other things as well, multiple other programs, multiple other banking, everything, business, it's all going to be locked out, and they're getting ready for it. All right, so make sure you're stocked up, make sure you got the seeds, you got fertilizer, you're getting your garden ready going. All right, we got our garden out here, we're working on it already. It's warming up quick. Okay, we're down south, so it doesn't get too cold, but it's still been pretty cold at night, dipping into freezing temperatures. So we've planted a few things in the ground, and we're going to transplant a lot of our stuff in trays as well here pretty soon as well. We got some lettuce and tomatoes and some trays that we're going to transplant. So thank you guys. Make sure you're getting prepared, getting stocked up, getting ready, right? Get that prepper pantry filled up. Get that 20-pound bag of rice. Grab another 20-pound bag when you're at the store, because that's what's going to save you. Fill up a water jug. All right, you got an empty water jug, just fill it up. Just fill it up with some sink water. Throw it in the closet and just save that for later in case you need it. You might need that for cooking, bathing, something, because people don't think about it. A lot of times the water doesn't work when the power's out. The pumps are not putting pressure on the pipes for the water to have pressure, and the water doesn't work a lot of times when the power's out. Sometimes it depends on how your water system's set up. Sometimes there's natural pressure from gravity, but a lot of times it's these pumps that are putting pressure on the lines for your city, for your county, and that could be shut down as well. All right, so thank you guys so much. I hope you have big blessings for your life, your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.